10 years ago, I started skydiving, and my mom absolutely hates it. But it turned out to be one of those decisions that changed my life completely, and in the following decade, it changed the lives of thousands of other people, my students. As wonderful as it is, skydiving itself didn't really have anything to do with that change. It was rather a guy that I had met at my first drop zone. That guy's name was Láďa, but everybody called him the Young One. But before we talk about the past, let's talk about present first. You see, in our modern world, we've crafted an existence of unparalleled convenience and comfort. From food deliveries at our fingertips to voice-activated light switches, we've designed our lives to be completely effortless, at least from the physical standpoint. Heated steering wheels and coffee cups that say hot to remind us that our coffee is, well, hot. Every small detail is carefully constructed for our comfort. We have comfy chairs and couches and car seats, and all of our lives are happening right there in the small spaces in front of our chests. Even the grocery store shelves are perfectly positioned to spare us from bending down or reaching too high. When was it the last time you had to dig in the dirt or climb trees to get your snacks, let alone chase them? And then, in everybody's pockets, there are those little plastic tablets that bring us cheeseburgers or hilarious cat videos or even potential dates, all with just a simple swipe of a finger. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love all of that, especially the cat videos, but it's essential to remember that humans were designed to move, and to move a lot, and in all sorts of different manners. Humans are movement generalists that operate under the use it or lose it principle, meaning whatever feature or physical quality you use on a regular basis, your body will keep it. But sadly, vice versa. If you don't use it, you will lose it. You can go and ask your grandma how much range she gained in her side split in the last 30 years. Unlike inorganic matter, humans actually get better when used, with the right dosage and frequency, of course. Humans thrive in discomfort, and by embracing it, we actually get more comfortable overall. And yet, astonishingly, close to 50% of Americans report being too busy at work to exercise at all. In other words, half of the machines that were designed to move are sitting idle. That's like half of the cars never receiving an oil change, or half the dog owners never feeding their dogs. And you don't need to be a car mechanic or a vet to realize the consequences. Every year, nearly 750,000 people worldwide lose their lives due to falls, an occurrence so common that Apple has incorporated fall detection into its watches to alert friends or relatives in an event of such a mishap. We see rising numbers in mental health issues or diseases like Alzheimer's, and baby boomers are the first generation to show cognitive decline, linked, among other things, to physical inactivity and obesity. Among the most common causes of death are cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and cancer. Combined, they claim over 50% of lives. 50%. So, if you take a look at the person sitting next to you, statistically, one of you. Don't worry, I do realize that this is a pretty grim way to start a talk, and it's gonna get better, I promise. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to share an idea that, at least based on my experience, seems to be working. You see, modern medicine and technology have extended our lives by 30 years in the last century, And we are on the brink of surpassing the 100-year life expectancy mark. But by the principle of quality over quantity, it's not just about living longer. It's about enhancing the quality of those extra years as well. You want both more lifespan, but also more health span. The idea is to die young, as late as possible. And if there's one thing that helps immensely with all of that, it's strength training. It's one of those a lot of bang for a buck kind of things. First and foremost, it makes you stronger, which I'm sure didn't really surprise anyone, right? But the benefits of strength training go way beyond physical strength. It lowers blood pressure and reduces the risk of heart disease. It aids in maintaining a healthy weight and alleviates the symptoms of arthritis, back pain, obesity, and depression. Strength training has a profound impact on your mood. From an evolutionary perspective, your reward centers are wired to sparkle like Christmas trees in response to physical activity, which is a remnant from our ancestors when movement equaled survival. Strength training also builds and maintains muscle mass. And even if you don't care about competing at the next bodybuilding event, muscles and your ability to use them correctly and efficiently make all the difference in how you manage to tackle everyday activities or sports. Strength training promotes joint health and primes you for almost any physical challenge life throws your way. It also makes you more confident, better looking, and generally harder to kill. Now, you might argue that overall well-being and health comes down to a wide range of elements like meaningful relationships, proper nutrition and hydration, sleep quality, stress management, joint mobility, endurance training, cardiovascular conditioning, or wearing your seatbelt. And you would be absolutely right. I'm not saying any of those things are not important. They are. But I'm saying that strength lays down a solid foundation upon which the other elements thrive. Strength training benefits every cell, every organ, and every part of your body, and there are literally zero drawbacks, provided you do it correctly. Weightlifting is like saving money in a piggy bank that you break open decades down the line. And the obvious question is, what are you going to find there? Lifting weights is like a gateway drug to self-improvement, mainly for three reasons. One, physical strength is the key to a lot of other physical attributes. Two, with physical strength comes also mental strength. And three, strength is ridiculously easy to develop and maintain, if you know how. So, now that you get the why of strength, let's talk about the how, shall we? I'm sure everybody understands that in order to get stronger, you need to give your muscles and the nervous system a proper input to adapt to, which is an adequate resistance you work against. Meaning, running or cycling or the majority of sports won't quite cut it, but lifting appropriately heavy weights will. Most of you probably understand that strength training is something you need to do regularly, consistently, and that it has to be tailored to your level and specific goals. But there is one extremely important variable that most people, and sadly also coaches, get wrong, and it hinders long-term progress and jeopardizes safety. You see, many people believe you need to annihilate yourself in the gym for the training to have any effect. You know, you need to sweat, and you need to ache, and you need to burn, and you need to bleed, and you need to want to call your mother after a training and tell her you love her, or otherwise there's no point to it at all, right? We even call it a workout, to work yourself out. But this whole go hard or go home mentality is not only wrong, it's also counterproductive for most people anyway. Because the more you push your body, the more it will push back over time, which in context of physical training means a loss of motivation at first, but most probably an injury if you keep pushing. And either of those stop you from training. Slow and steady wins the race. One training variable closely related to strength is intensity, or the weight that you are working with. Roughly speaking, we can classify different weights as light, which is something you can lift 20 or more times, moderate, something that you can lift 10 to 15 times, heavy, which is something you can lift 1 to 3 or maybe 5 times, and then impossible, which is something that you can almost lift once, and obviously anything heavier than that. And simply put, if today you're able to lift something that was impossible for you 6 months ago, you are getting stronger. But how do you lift the impossible? As the great strength coach and my mentor, Paul McElroy, says, you don't lift the weight you're not able to lift by trying to lift it. In other words, you don't get stronger by attempting to lift the impossible. You get stronger by repeatedly lifting the moderate so it becomes light. And simultaneously, heavy becomes moderate and impossible becomes heavy. Start light and add weight over time. To give you an example of what starting light means, years ago, I had a small and slender student. Let's call her Mary. Mary was undoubtedly the weakest person that I had ever worked with. When she joined my gym, she was barely able to bench press an empty 20-kilo barbell once. To make her training even possible, I took a broomstick and taped 1 kilo weight plate to each side, and that was the working weight for her first training session. And it was just a little heavier than her own arms. The next session, we added a kilo, and the one after that, we added another one, and we continued going like that. After about 8 weeks, she worked her way back to the empty barbell, but this time, she wasn't doing single repetition, but 15 sets of 5, relatively easy. After another month, she was able to bench press 40 kilos, which is not by any means any world record or anything to write home about, really. But to Mary, that was 200% of what she was able to do just a few weeks earlier, and also almost her own body weight. And I think that is worth mentioning. And by the way, you don't need to get freakishly strong to gain benefits of strength for health and everyday life and longevity. And nor should you. There is a certain point where getting stronger comes at a price, the price of specificity, where you have to sacrifice other important aspects of your physical development. So working towards something like a double body weight deadlift, or 10 to 15 pull-ups, or single leg pistol squats will do just fine. And this is nowhere near a world-class level, but if you work up there and maintain it, you will feel world-class. But the whole point is elsewhere. At the end of that first training cycle, Mary came to me, excited, reporting that she was now able to carry heavy groceries home by herself. And for the first time in her life, she was able to put her bike onto a roof rack of her car. And that is way more important than any bench press numbers whatsoever. That is strength applied in real life. You don't get stronger by attempting to lift the impossible. You get stronger by starting light and adding small increments of weight and never stopping. And with the example of Mary, I wanted to emphasize that you can't really start too light. This approach is more efficient, less risky, and it's way easier than trying to max out every workout. And it also leaves you with a bunch of energy for all the other activities, like going on hikes, or helping your friend move, or spending quality time with your children or grandchildren for as long as possible. All the activities that you actually hit the gym for in the first place. So it's not about breaking yourself every time you go work out. It's about slow and steady path to strength, more health span, and a better you. I don't care about what your level is today, but I really, really do care about what it's going to be in 20, 30, or more years down the line. And I owe this perspective, and basically my whole career, to Láďa, the young one. Every other weekend, he would bike 15 kilometers to the drop zone, where he would jump with us for 2 days straight out of an old Soviet biplane corn crop duster, the AN-2 airplane. Soviets started making these in 1947, and the only thing at that drop zone that was older than that plane was Láďa. He was almost 80 years old, with close to 5,000 skydives under his belt, enjoying his life to the fullest. And it was then when I decided I wanted exactly that, to skydive, and generally live my life until the very last possible moment. And I want it exactly the same for all of my students. For all of us to die young, as late as possible. Thank you, young one.